Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would review this little video. And this is going to be a very particularly interesting video, and this might be the last time that I end up talking about it. But, like I said, when it came to this Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou fight, new media and the LDBC, they were going to have a heyday with this. And the reason why they were going to have such a heyday with it is because now that they can possibly allege that Francis Ngannou ended up getting robbed against that of Tyson Fury, who of course was a professional MMA fighter and someone that did not have a professional boxing fight, at least to my recollection, to my knowledge. Now, from what I hear, he was slightly somewhat trained in that of boxing striking. But that being said, Francis Ngannou certainly took a lot of people by surprise, including myself, to the point to where a lot of people believe that Francis Ngannou, and I also believe this personally myself, that he might actually have a chance against some of the top 10 ranked boxers in the world, in that of the heavyweight division. If he were to fight that of Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, Deontay Wilder, Joe Joyce, Joseph Parker, he might actually beat some of those guys. Who knows? I wouldn't favor him in all those fights potentially, but he might beat some of those guys. Who the hell knows? He's very big, he's very athletic, and he did show certain boxing skills in that ring that I certainly was a little bit surprised, and clearly that Tyson Fury was surprised that Francis Ngannou showed in the ring. And when we want to talk about what ended up happening in this fight, there of course are certain things that people are saying, depending on what it may be, excuses that are meant to be for Tyson Fury and excuses that are meant to be against him. For the people that may be Tyson Fury fans, I've seen excuses saying that, oh, Tyson Fury really didn't train for this fight and he was carrying Ngannou and he got knocked down because he didn't care, all sort of stuff. Do I believe that Tyson Fury ended up having the amount of problems with Ngannou because he was just carrying Ngannou throughout the whole entire fight? Or that it was fixed? No, I don't. No, I don't. Because I think you can tell what a fight looks like when someone is carrying somebody. I think that you can maybe argue that Tyson Fury did that against Deontay Wilder in the third fight. Floyd Mayweather Jr. did that against Conor McGregor, when it kind of came down to it. And there are some other fighters that, I'm probably not mentioning when it comes to certain fights. You could tell, even from the first round, that Tyson Fury, that he was just very uncomfortable with Francis Ngannou. And like I said, Fury thought that he was going to go in there and that he was going to be able to rough up Francis, that he was going to be able to lean on him if anything. He figured wrong because Francis Ngannou, of course, he has an MMA background, so he actually was very exceptional within the clinch. He was just as good as Tyson Fury at times. And on top of that, I'm not going to say that he was necessarily better in the boxing element, but he was a lot closer than what Tyson Fury was expecting, and it really caught Tyson Fury off guard. It caused him to fight a much safer fight than probably what he would have, and it certainly caused him to make certain mistakes. And if he were to rematch Francis Ngannou, he would have to make some adjustments in order to be more dominant or in order to win that fight, in my view. But that just goes to show you, in my view, the athletic talent and also just, the fighting talent that a Francis Ngannou is. You are talking about a guy that became an MMA champion against Stipe Miocic, and of course was able to beat some very, very good, highly ranked guys in that of the UFC. And I already stated this. I don't think that there's going to be a much better performance from an MMA fighter against especially a top tier level boxer, because I think that you would have to have the level of power and athleticism that Francis Ngannou has, and you would also have to have some of the boxing IQ that he has as well. And I don't think that a certain amount of these other MMA fighters have that. But I just thought that I would talk about this because once again, all the people who, let's be real here, are mainly Deontay Wilder soy boys, are mainly Deontay Wilder fans, and they're still pissed off that Deontay Wilder ended up getting beat by this big Caucasian flab overall 3 times, basically on 3 separate occasions. And of course, they tried to allege all this stuff about Tyson Fury cheating and the third fight would be different and all this other stuff. And all I said, basically everything that I said about the Wilder situation and this situation, I was right on. I was right on, the mark when it came down to it. When Tyson Fury was going to rematch Deontay Wilder in the third fight, they weren't going to give him credit anyway. All they were going to say is that Wilder was a completely different fighter. He doesn't have anywhere near the same punch resistance, blah, blah, blah. All this other bullshit. When it comes down to, even though they were saying that the third fight should look completely different because this time Fury's not allowed to cheat. But then as soon as the third fight happens, all of a sudden, oh, Wilder's not the same anymore. So it is what it is. But once again, this is pretty much their job to do that because What they are is that they are that of the victim mentality cult. And, you know, when it comes down to it, it's very unfortunate that channels like this exist. But a lot of people, once again, they're always like, I wonder why these guys have such a big following. And I can tell you once again why they have such a big following. And I'm going to say this in another video that I'm going to post, whether it be before this one or after. But the easiest people to pander to, especially when you're playing that victimization role, is that of victims or people who believe they're victims, or people that believe that, to be honest with you, that they're losers. Because most losers, or most people that are not happy with their lives, or pretty much stay in the same meandering lives, they play a victim. They don't think that they can up their lives. They think that the world is against them, you know. And in some areas, you know, the world might be against you. There might be some areas where, of course, it's going to be harder for you to get up on top than others. But at the end of the day, if you just keep blaming everybody else, and if you just keep making excuses, how are you ever going to improve? How are you ever going to be successful? Because people that are highly, highly successful, they don't make excuses. They have a great amount of self-accountability. Even the greatest of athletes, a lot of the times, have the greatest of self-accountability when it comes to that of success, including that of Tyson Fury. And the reason why Deontay Wilder did not end up winning a single fight against that of Tyson Fury is because he just kept making excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. If it wasn't a long count in the first fight, then it was because Tyson Fury put his hands lower into the gloves. If it wasn't that, it was because he was drugged. If it wasn't that, it was because the costume wore him down. If it wasn't that, Tyson Fury put brass knuckles or egg weights in his gloves. If it wasn't that, then it was because his coach overall, you know, his black coach, by the way, who he fired when it came down to it, you know, he was in on it and he threw in the towel. And that's the reason overall why Deontay Wilder never improved for every single one of those fights, because he had people that were lying to him. These losers, once again, that put way too much, especially racial motivation, within that of a boxing fight. But now a lot of people, a lot of these guys, they're very bitter, they're very sour, and they're very humiliated that their pro-black god, Deontay Wilder, ended up losing in such a fashion that he did. Because he was basically their Malcolm X, their Muhammad Ali for this generation. That's what they thought that he was. So once again, and I'm not just talking about once again as a great fighter, but as a guy once again that spoke up for them and, you know, complained and victimized his people just as much as what they do. Okay, so that's the reason why they liked him so much. So once again, you're going to see a lot of these channels, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, you're going to see a lot of these same guys strike while the iron is hot. Now that Tyson Fury looked like shit, and they're going to say, see, you know, Fury has been overrated for a long time. People have been trying to compare this dude to other all-time great heavyweights. He's not a great heavyweight. He's just the most overrated heavyweight of all time. He's a guy that when he can't cheat, he's not that good. When in reality, I think when you talk about this fight, I think we probably got about Tyson Fury at about an 85%, which still is a good enough boxer to where he still should have been more dominant in this fight. But I don't think that Tyson Fury really took Francis Ngannou's skill set seriously. And that shows me, you know, the proof of that is that the Alexander Usyk fight was a month and a half after this. Not even 2 months, but a month and a half after this. That tells me pretty much everything I need to know about Fury's, you know, thinking of Francis Ngannou's skill set. You know, and he also did not look like he had the same level of conditioning. And that just goes to show you that once again, and I think that this actually was the best thing for Fury, almost suffering a loss to Francis Ngannou, because now he's going to realize that don't underestimate any of these next opponents. Because I think that Tyson Fury believes that after Deontay Wilder and after Klitschko, there's just no real huge threat to his career. And if he's at his best, more than likely Tyson Fury could retire undefeated. But still, don't underestimate any of these boys. These guys, they're looking to hurt you. They're looking to beat you. So Tyson Fury is going to have to be better. He's going to have to correct some of his flaws from this fight, which I think that he can do. He's a very intelligent fighter, and I think that the Krong Gym, that they're doing very good with him. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, let's get straight into it. We're going to review a video by that of, what is this dude's name? Dark Black Magic. That tells me everything that I need to know right there. But we're going to see what this dude has to say. Let's get straight into it.
That is disgusting what they just did to him. Anybody would have been wise to predict that was going to happen to him. There was no chance that boxing was going to allow him to come in and get that win if it went to a decision.
Once again, and this is why it's very important to commentate on these videos, because a lot of people like to go to the victimization mentality, or they like to go on a narrative when they don't know what the hell they're talking about. This fight was not a robbery. Now, if you want to give Francis Ngannou the fight, that's up to you. But a robbery is a fight to where it clearly went one side, and there's just no possible way that it could have went the other. There was a couple of swing rounds in this fight. Round 2, I personally gave it to Fury, but you may have given it to Francis Ngannou. Round 7, I gave it to Francis Ngannou. Others may have given it to Tyson Fury. So once again, it all just depends, on which rounds you scored. But like I said, this was a very close fight either way. Now, should it have been that close? No, probably not. But once again, a lot of people, especially when they see an underdog that is almost about ready to pull off the upset and then it doesn't end up happening, they always get very pissed off because once again, it's almost like a crackhead. It's almost like they see the 8 ball, they see the crack in the corner, and the deal is almost about to come off. But then something ends up arising and the deal doesn't get done. Now they're extra pissed off because they didn't get that high. They didn't get that dopamine rush, and they wanted Tyson Fury to lose this fight because it would be a great look for MMA. It'd be a great look for Francis, and it would just be an interesting storyline and something to remember because an MMA fighter beat up on a boxer or beat a boxer. It just didn't happen. It was a very close fight. Francis has nothing to be ashamed of. He did a great, great job. But at the end of the day, did Fury probably win the fight by a little bit? Yeah, he probably did, by a very, very slim margin. But once again, this is not a robbery. And that's no offense against Chael Sonnen, but every single time that I've seen Chael Sonnen commentate on a prediction or a fight, he almost always gets it wrong. And I don't think that there's a coincidence about that. It's no offense against Chael Sonnen, but I don't see him as the greatest analyzer on the planet Earth. And there's no offense, dude, but you probably should not be commentating on a sport that you don't know anything about.
Oh, he catches him off guard! Francis Ngannou has just scored a knockdown against the heavyweight champ! Anything can happen, it just did! Well, what do we have?
Let me also commentate on this, and I know that with Fury not looking too great right now, I have a lot of these people saying, oh, I think Usyk beats him up. I don't think it's even close. Fury's overrated. I'm not really buying in any of that because Fury's always been a guy that fights to the level of his competition. I don't think that he took Francis that seriously. I think that he took him relatively seriously. But do I think that he thought that he was going to be the next Deontay Wilder? Absolutely not. But then Fury got in there, especially after round 3, and he learned overall that you do not underestimate certain opponents, and Francis was for real. And once again, that power must have been something else because as soon as Tyson Fury felt it, he was backing up.
Here, folks.
Welcome to the Dark Times channel. And before I go ahead and get started, make sure you guys hit that like button for me. And if you're not new to the channel and you enjoy the content so far on this channel, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me as well. And so let's go ahead and get into it. As you all may already know, there was a highly anticipated heavyweight matchup last night featuring Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. Tyson Fury is 32 years old, has 31 fights, 30 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw, 21 knockouts, standing at 6'9", weighing in at 277 with an 85-inch arm reach. And so he was facing off against Francis Ngannou, who's a UFC fighter.
Francis Ngannou, by the way, not Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou. Once again, a lot of these guys, when they're commentating on something, they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a person that pronounces every single name correctly either. But Francis Ngannou, if you're a dude that should be commentating about this fight, you should know who the fuck Francis Ngannou is. Francis was a former UFC champion and one of the greater and one of the more popular champions in that of the UFC.
Has never been in a sanctioned boxing match in his life. And Francis is 34 years old, 19 fights, 16 wins, 3 losses, 12 knockouts, standing at 6'4", weighing in at 277 pounds with an 83-inch arm reach. And so for everybody who's watched this fight, most people are saying that Francis won this fight.
Right, and a lot of people also stated that Manny Pacquiao, that he won against that of Floyd Mayweather Jr. If you were to have a poll up, there would probably be more people, because Manny Pacquiao has more of a fan base that said that he won against Floyd Mayweather Jr. And if you put a poll up between Marcos Maidana and Floyd Mayweather Jr., more people will tell you today that Marcos Maidana won the fight against Mayweather than that of vice versa. That doesn't mean that it's true. And once again, this is why you cannot rely on what a lot of people say, because they don't know what they're talking about.
Tyson Fury lost this fight.
You lost, Rock. You lost.
Every fight I got you. The Great White Hopeless, they called you, remember?
And I would have to agree.
And once again, when you take a look at the title of this guy's video, he already puts that of the Great White Hype. That tells you immediately, and just his channel name, what his motivation already is. That he's already another pro-black victimization cult member that more than likely is probably a huge Liberal Party follower and overall relies on the bitching, moaning, and complaining, especially to that of the Caucasians or the people that he feels are of greater power or of greater deservance of him. And that's why a lot of these guys, they bitch, moan, and complain so much, because they don't have that high of an opinion of themselves. Because when people believe that they can get anything done themselves, or when they have a high degree of value and that someone is not over them, they don't bitch, moan, and complain that much. They just, they overall don't focus their energy on hating someone overall this badly.
I would have to agree. As soon as I saw that Tyson Fury was actually allowing cameras in his locker room while he was getting his hands taped and wrapped up, I said, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. Because if y'all remember that second Deontay Wilder fight, in which
where JD's, by the way, was allowed to watch that of Tyson Fury's hand wraps. I don't know why this is still a narrative that these idiots overall still keep going on. Once again, I still have never gotten an answer to this day. If Deontay Wilder, excuse me, if Deontay Wilder truly believed that Tyson Fury cheated with his hand wraps or with his gloves, why did he fire Mark Breland in his corner, but he didn't fire JD's? Because JD's was the one that was watching his hands and his hands wrapped. It makes no fucking sense. But these dumbbells, I still haven't gotten one single response from them, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just on their menstrual cycle, and their vaginas are still sore, and they think like women. So when it comes down to it, once again, you're not going to get a logical response from these guys, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Wilder had a dent in his head, and everybody saw Tyson Fury.
Deontay Wilder really did not have a dent in his head. What happened, and you can see that that's just the way that Wilder's head is built, that he has a little bit of indents kind of near his temples when it comes down to it, especially since he's so well conditioned. But because he was so battered in that second fight and there was so much swelling around the ear, it looked like there was a dent in his head. But was there an actual dent in his skull? Absolutely not. There was no dent in Deontay Wilder's skull, and that's why there was never any x-rays. There was never any x-rays from that Deontay Wilder situation, all right? These same guys, they said, you know what, when Manny Pacquiao made the excuse to Floyd Mayweather Jr. and said that his shoulder was hurt, well, where's the x-rays? Where's the proof? You know, that's the first thing that they said. But then when it comes to this, Wilder needs no proof.
His gloves are flopping around, and everybody saw.
Yes, and I've already commented on this too. Tyson Fury's, you know, his gloves were floppy in the first fight, as are certain other gloves, depending on what time of history that you look at. Especially when you're throwing with force and doing a flick jab, your wrists are going to appear to bend a little bit more than normal. Now, are they actually bending at 90 degrees as what it kind of shows there? No, not really. It's probably more bending at about 75 degrees, but the gloves make it look a little bit further.
That Tyson Fury was slipping his hands in and out of his gloves.
And that's not really probable during that of a boxing fight, because that wouldn't really do anything other than break your fingers and break your hands in the first place. And it wouldn't really put any extra emphasis or any power on your punches for anyone who's actually done sparring or anyone who actually knows shit about boxing. That's why they went to the Mayweather gym and they told a bunch of fighters to do that. And every single one of them said, why the fuck would I do this? This would fuck my shit up. Why overall would I put the gloves lower onto my hands? This makes no damn sense. And then Dante, you know, and all the other pro-black cult members, you know, they said, oh, they're just doing that, you know, all this are bullshit, you know. But like I said, you can also take a look at a video where Tyson Fury, and Joe Rogan commented on this as well, where Tyson Fury, during those fights, you know, when allegedly his hands are all floppy and his hands are lower into the gloves, you can see Fury's hands crinkle right afterwards. Meaning what? That his fingers are in the end parts of the glove. So it makes no damn sense.
Trying to gain an advantage. Tyson Fury is probably one of the most hyped boxers I've ever seen. He had,
AKA, he's one of the greatest white hypes that I've ever seen. And I'm still pissed off that he beat my brother Deontay Wilder, and I can't get over it because I'm a sore loser.
This trilogy with Deontay Wilder, in which the first fight he got dropped and lost,
No, he didn't lose, but you're going to go into that excuse overall because you wanted Wilder to win so bad. You know, it is what it is. No, Tyson Fury didn't lose. And if you know anything about boxing, you know that Tyson Fury, that he got up around the 10 count. All right? Or around up at 9 or around at 10. So once again, these guys, I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Which the referee didn't count properly. If you go back and look at that fight, Tyson Fury should have been counted out, and Deontay Wilder should have won that first fight.
No, he shouldn't have.
The second fight, like I said, we all saw the floppy glove gate. You can't tell me.
Well, that wasn't even in the second fight. That was in the first fight. So that tells me already that you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. That not only do you not know anything about MMA, but you don't know anything about boxing. Because that was not even from the second fight. That was from the first fight.
My eyes didn't see what they saw. I've never ever in my life seen a glove flopping around like that.
I tried the same method the second time, but this time you scratched flesh out of my ears, which caused my ears to bleed.
Yes, because that would totally be possible during a boxing match where Tyson Fury really was not even clawing you with that of his right hand in that of the rematch. He was mainly, you know, at least not clawing necessarily, but he was kind of grabbing you with his left hand. How the fuck is he going to scratch your left ear with his left hand? He was mainly punching you straight down the pipe with his right hand. So that already makes no fucking sense. But that goes to show you how much idiocy there actually is. Once again, the average human person does not have that much of a high IQ. They're about as smart as a rock.
It's impossible for a brand new 10-ounce glove to bend, to keep a smushed in form, or to have loose space.
Which, by the way, if you take a look at that fight, the gloves will never appear smushed in. And once again, if they were smushed in, then Deontay Wilder, and obviously Wilder didn't believe it, and I've been saying this for years, because Deontay Wilder would have fired his coach JD's. You're so pissed off that you're going to fire Mark Breland and everyone else in your corner, but you're going to keep your main trainer JD's, who was the one watching Fury's hand wraps and gloves this whole entire time? That makes no fucking sense.
Hard to believe you put something hard in your glove. Something to sign.
No, you don't. No, you don't, Deontay Wilder. And you know damn well that you don't, because as soon as Tyson Fury asked you at the press conference, you were silent. You were silent as a church mouse when he asked you that question, because even you knew that you did not know the answer to that fucking question. So it's no offense, dude, but you were being a sore loser, and you were making some of the most idiotic excuses that I had ever heard, and it affected you in your performance in all three fights.
In the shape of an egg weight. Here's the reason why the side of my face swelled up in an egg weight form. And it left a dent in my face as well.
Making a change is never easy, but having Zen shipped directly to your door,
And Deontay Wilder spoke out about it after the fight. But if I know like I know, I'm sure Deontay Wilder was approached by boxing or individuals within boxing, and he was told to keep his mouth shut if he ever wanted to fight again, and not to mess the...
And that's basically the pro-black cult's excuse of saying that's the reason why Wilder took the third fight without trying to sue Tyson Fury for the second fight overall, because he just wanted revenge so bad, which makes no fucking sense. If you believe that you were cheated that badly, you know, when it comes down to why would you not try and sue him or go to the commission? Wilder didn't try any of that. You know, he didn't try any of that. He didn't do any of it. You know, so once again, it's just very particularly interesting. So they have to use that excuse of, oh, Wilder, he was told behind the scenes. Oh, it's our bullshit. And don't get me wrong, certain people are told certain things behind the scenes. There are fights all the time, I have no doubt about it, where certain people say, listen, you know, we need this dude to win. And, you know, if you really want to fight, we're going to give you a fight. And you can get either very badly hurt, you know, or whatever when it comes down to it, or you can kind of coast and he can hurt you minimally and you're going to get even an extra paycheck when it comes down to it. So, you know, you take your pick, you know, or you're going to get, you know, an extra $1 or $2, you know, or a decent paycheck if you end up taking a dive in this fight. There are certain times where fights are fixed, no doubt about it, including, by the way, and no one seems to mention this, Deontay Wilder's fixed fight against Malik Scott. But almost none of these channels mention that.
Bag up for everybody else, and not to mess the bag up for him to fight again, and not to mess the bag up for everybody else, and not to mess the bag up for himself in the end.
Right, so if Deontay Wilder really got that badly cheated, then he should have said, you know what, I'm backing out of this, and I'm not participating in a sport overall where it really is that dirty and that rigged. But he didn't do that, so that means that if that did happen behind the scenes, What that really means is that Deontay Wilder is not a warrior that he so claims, but that he's a coward.
And so that's what he did. And so that's what Deontay Wilder did. He said, let me go ahead and regroup, get myself together, train a little bit differently, make sure I got somebody that's on my team that's going to look out for me and that's going to watch Tyson Fury when he's wrapping his hands.
Right, the same exact person that was watching Tyson Fury's hand wraps and also his gloves in the first 2 fucking fights. Once again, you can't make these stupid asses up. You really can't.
And so that's what he did. And we saw a different Deontay Wilder in the 3rd fight.
No, we didn't see no damn different Deontay Wilder in the 3rd fight. Saw the same fucking Deontay Wilder from the first 2 fights. He just got his ass kicked just as bad. That's it. And that's another excuse. And I already told people this. All they would be saying in that 3rd fight, they weren't going to give Tyson Fury no fucking credit anyway, because they were all saying that, oh, well, Fury wouldn't be allowed to cheat this time. And then as soon as that fight happens, you could tell by the excuses they were already making, we don't even know if Wilder is the same because of the punch resistance, all sort of stuff. And then at the same time, they were talking all this shit about Deontay Wilder. He wasn't even really stopped. They just threw the towel in early. You know, he wasn't really even that badly hurt. But then the 3rd fight, he gets his ass completely mopped, you know, knocked down 3 separate occasions when it comes down to it. And then, oh, he's not the same fighter. Get the fuck out of here.
The 3rd fight was a legit win. I'll give Tyson Fury credit for that one. That's a fight that he actually won. Like in the 2nd one.
He won the first 2 as well. But since you're very bitter, you know, once again, because you're Black Panther figure, that of Deontay Wilder, since he got defeated, you're not going to get over it.
Some degree, was by using his 6'9", 277 plus frame. Leaning that big sloppy body on Deontay Wilder the whole fight, wearing him down.
He said that big sloppy body. Once again, you can tell overall a person hates a certain person just by the way that they talk. You know, a lot of these Deontay Wilder fans, they love to make fun of Tyson Fury's body. But at the end of the day, you know, boxing is not men's fitness or anything like that. Boxing overall, when it comes to Men's Fitness magazine, is not who always has the sharpest abs or this or that. Now, at times that can show who has the greater conditioning, you know, but, you know, when it comes down to it, Tyson Fury is a dude that usually has excellent conditioning and excellent stamina. And that's also a part of the reason why I definitely think he trained for the Ngannou fight, but I don't think he trained with as much intensity because he looked legitimately tired in the second half of that fight.
And Deontay Wilder is somebody that's tall himself. He's standing at 6'7", but he weighs around 220, 230 pounds.
Yes, he does. And the reason why Deontay Wilder doesn't get a major excuse from me is because Deontay Wilder, he's a guy overall that has a right hand that is supposed to knock out anybody. And a guy all in all that, once again, he pretty much was used to fighting midgets for his whole entire career and bums. He's a guy that, once again, people love to moan and groan about, oh, look at his 10 title defenses. It's like, who the hell were they against? Other than Luis Ortiz, when it comes down to who the hell were his title defenses actually against? Nobody's. Like, they were against Artur Spiltzka, and most of these fighters were about 6'2", 6'3". You know, so Deontay Wilder, let's not sit here and act like he also does not have a great advantage with his height and reach. Now, you can argue, once again, that the weight was an advantage for Tyson Fury. I certainly don't mind that. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, let's not sit here and act like overall it was just this humongous disadvantage overall when it came down to it. Because Wilder, once again, has the same height and reach and a decent amount more power than that of Tyson Fury. So if he is supposed to be a changed fighter, if he's a guy that's supposed to have the skill set, he's supposed to beat Tyson Fury. But the reason why he did not beat him is because he couldn't. It's not like this was a Canelo versus Dimitri Bivol situation where Bivol and Canelo, you know, even though Canelo, you know, is probably, you know, a little bit more comparable in weight to that fight, although I thought he gained a little bit too much. It's not like this was a Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Lomachenko or, you know, overall a Canelo versus Dimitri Bivol situation or something of that of a sort. You know, Wilder had his same physical dimensions.
And he's wiry. He has no base to him. And so after the 3rd round, Deontay Wilder is gassed. And that's how Tyson Fury...
He's gassed because he gained 10 extra pounds for that fight. He gained a little bit of muscle. And like I predicted, he wasn't going to be able to handle it. Because Wilder's never had excellent stamina in the first place anyway.
Wins a lot of his fights. He leans that big sloppy body on his opponents and wears them down. And I'm not saying Tyson Fury is not a good boxer, but he's definitely not as skilled as people are making him out to be.
Tyson Fury is an exceptionally skilled boxer. However, that being said, he certainly was very sloppy, and he was not very good in the Francis Ngannou fight, because I think he thought that Ngannou was going to be somewhat of a pushover. I think he thought that Ngannou was going to be a little bit troubling for a couple rounds and a serious threat for a couple rounds, but I think he thought that after the first 3 to 4 rounds that Ngannou wasn't really going to give much. Well, he thought wrong.
His advantage is his stature and the fact that the heavyweight boxing.
Of course, part of his advantage is his stature, but once again, if we're going to go by that, then we need to talk about a lot of other fighters. We need to talk about a certain amount of other guys. All of a sudden, we need to talk about Deontay Wilder. All of a sudden, we need to talk about Vladimir Klitschko. All of a sudden, we need to talk about Lennox Lewis. All of a sudden, we need to talk about John Jones. All of a sudden, we need to talk about Israel Adesanya. All of a sudden, we need to start talking about Dominic Cruz. If we're going to use that, no problem. But then let's start using that for a lot of the other fighters as well. Don't just use that for Tyson Fury because you don't like him.
Scene is depleted, especially in the United States. We don't have any more great heavyweight boxers coming out of the United States. Everybody's playing basketball and football. It's a much easier route to the bag without having to worry about brain damage.
That, and on top of that, boxing has probably been more mixed in terms of the ethnicities than what it ever has been, because you have great overall styles in that of Europe. You have great styles in certain Latin countries. When it comes down to it, even a little bit in certain Asian countries. Boxing has probably been more mixed today than what it ever has been.
And so a lot of our potential great boxers just aren't even getting in the gym anymore. Like I said, they're playing football and basketball. It's the better option. It's the same.
Oh, please. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that to a degree that he's not correct in certain ways. But, let's not sit here and act like just no black fighters are getting in the gym and training. Get out of here. You have Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, all these other guys. Don't get me wrong. It's a part of it. I don't completely disagree with him. That if you're a black athlete or if you're a person that's going to be coming up, that basketball and some of these other sports, that it's safer and that it probably pays more. I don't completely disagree. But let's also give credit to certain countries that Europe is probably creating more champions than what it ever has been, when it comes down to it, and a certain amount of other areas as well.
For option. And so Tyson Fury, along with other heavyweights, are taking advantage of a watered-down division.
Yep, of course. Once again, taking away complete credit of him. Now, if you want to argue that it's not as talented as other eras, that's up to you. But at the end of the day, Tyson Fury defeated a great first ballot Hall of Famer in Vladimir Klitschko. He defeated a first ballot Hall of Famer in Deontay Wilder. And if you're claiming that that division was watered down, what are you also saying about Deontay Wilder? So if you're saying about that, then what you're saying is that Deontay Wilder was never an A-grade fighter. What you're saying is that Vladimir Klitschko was also never an A-grade fighter, that Dillian White was never an A-grade fighter.
But last night, Tyson Fury got exposed. He was dealing with an individual with Francis Ngannou who, it didn't matter if you leaned that big sloppy body on top of him. You're talking about a grappler and a great wrestler. Somebody who knows how to use his body. Somebody who knows how to get that weight up off of him. And that's what...
And listen, I will say this. It was certain that Francis's stature and his level of power and the fact that Fury for the first time was dealing with someone of his own weight and size, that he clearly was having a little bit of an issue with it. And I don't think that is really that big of a deal, because there's a lot of times where I've seen certain fights where they're finally in the ring with someone that has similar physical dimensions. I've seen it with Wilder in that of the Luis Ortiz and Tyson Fury fights. I've seen it with John Jones against Ovin St. Preux, and also against Alexander Gustafsson when he was finally fighting someone near his own same physical dimensions for the first time. I've seen it with a multitude of fighters throughout their eras. That's just going to happen when a lot of the times you're used, and even Klitschko against Fury. That's going to happen a lot of the times when you're not used to fighting guys that are your own same height and your same reach, and you use that as a main defense mechanism. Now, Fury, when he's at his best, still usually has decent defense, but he did show some defensive flaws in this fight, like keeping his hands down a little bit too much after certain exchanges, or not faking his punches or feinting enough, I think, in this fight when it came down to it. So Fury is going to have to improve on some of those things, but if he's intelligent enough, and if his corner is intelligent enough, they will improve on some of those flaws, which usually they do pretty well, because the Kronk Gym helped out Fury a lot by improving some of the faults that he had in the first Deontay Wilder fight.
He was doing every time Tyson Fury would lean on him, Francis would stand him up and then pop him with a 1-2.
Well, he wouldn't really pop him with a 1-2, but he would try to land certain things in the clinches. Like, this guy's trying to act like Francis was landing a flush 1-2 every single time they were in the clinch, and that's not what happened. At times, either Fury or Ngannou, sometimes they get the shots out, but most of the time, they were muffled punches, and those punches really aren't counting when you're talking about the total punch count. Not unless, you're able to get out of it and you're able to land a clear big uppercut or a clear cross or a clear hook, kind of like what Mayweather or Fury or some of these other guys are able to do. Now, there were some punches that Ngannou was able to land like that, but it wasn't every single time they were in the clinch.
Tyson Fury wasn't ready for that. He didn't know how to combat that. I think that's something he said he was worried about before the fight, and he had a right to be, because that's a huge advantage when somebody who's tearing at 6'9" and has got a 40-pound to 50-pound weight advantage over most of his opponents. That's a huge advantage. And I think boxing, especially the heavyweight division, needs to change that. There's no other division.
You certainly could argue that they could change that. I think that if you're about probably over 230 or 240, that you certainly could argue that there should be a super heavyweight division. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because that is a little bit of an advantage, especially if you're Tyson Fury's size. But once again, the reason why I don't give that much of a pass to Deontay Wilder is because he's basically a guy that could fit easily at a super heavyweight division as well. He's a guy that, yeah, of course, he doesn't weigh as much as Tyson Fury, but he's a guy that could easily fight at 225 to 230, no problem. And on top of that, he's a guy that has a punch that can knock out a horse, and he's a guy that is 6'7" with about an 85-inch arm reach as well. So, if we want to talk about Fury's, dominance because, he's only good because he has all these physical advantages. Well, we need to talk about Deontay Wilder, and some of these other fighters, So once again, keep the same standards.
And that allows such a weight disparity. That's a huge advantage when we're talking about fighting. And so I think that's something that boxing needs to look into. Somebody that big needs to be fighting in the super heavyweight division. Tyson Fury is an average boxer. He's got a glass.
No, he's not an average boxer. He is an exceptional boxer, but he got caught slacking in this fight overall against Francis Ngannou, and that's what ended up happening. But once again, it is now their time to strike once again now that they can try to push their bullshit agenda.
Chin that damn near gets dropped in every fight that he's in.
Well, Fury's chin is a lot overall like that of Juan Manuel Marquez. It's not impossible to knock him down, but it's almost impossible to get him out of there. Certain people can get knocked down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a bad chin. That just means that at times, you don't have necessarily a granite chin. But Fury has a good enough chin to where the thing is that he can recover very quick, and that's more important overall than not being able to get knocked down throughout the whole entire fight. That's more important than not being able to get knocked down.
From this, he does have heart, because he'll get up off that mat like the Undertaker and get dropped again.
Now, when you talk about real glass chins, those are chins that once they start getting hit and cracked with hard shots, it's very hard for them to recover. AKA Yuriorkis Gamboa, AKA Amir Khan, AKA overall Saddam Ali, certain chins like that. Those are real glass chins.
Get right back up. So
AKA Ricky Hatton.
Give him that. He's got heart, but like I said, pound for pound, he's an average boxer at best.
No, he's not an average boxer, because if he was an average boxer, then he wouldn't have been able to beat Deontay Wilder, nor would he have been able to defeat Vladimir Klitschko. So if you're saying that he was an average boxer, once again, be very careful of what you're saying, because what you're saying is that Vladimir Klitschko, Dillian Whyte, and Deontay Wilder, that not only were they average, but that they were below average. That's what you're saying, that those guys were C-grade level fighters, because you're calling Tyson Fury an average level boxer. And I'm sorry, but I just can't agree with that.
Every inch of his weight to his advantage. But last night it didn't work, because I believe there was only like a 20-pound weight difference, and you're dealing with an individual.
It wasn't a 20-pound different weights at all. And once again, that goes to show you that this dude, he didn't even pay attention to the fight. He's just pretty much using this overall, once again, to push his bullshit agenda. His pro-blackity-black agenda, because Francis Ngannou weighed in at about 272 and Tyson Fury weighed in at about 279. So there was no 20-pound weight difference.
Individual that knows all the dirty tactics, the grappling tactics, knows how to use his body, knows how to position himself when somebody's trying to tie him up. And that was a problem. And there was a point in the match when you could see Tyson Fury getting a little frustrated and threw an elbow at Francis Ngannou.
Well, once again, it's Francis Ngannou, but Let me also say this: that elbow, and I ended up rewatching the fight last night. To be honest with you, I really couldn't tell if it was on purpose or if it was an accident. Now, if you take a look at the replay, it looked 100% on purpose, But when I actually took a look at the fight myself, and when I seen the round that it happened, I think it was in the fourth round or something like that. I can't remember, but it looked like Tyson Fury was trying to slip in a right hand very quickly on the inside, and that it just didn't connect, and Francis wasn't as in front of him as what he thought, and he may have just landed the elbow on accident. But who knows? Tyson Fury is a professional fighter. He certainly could get it in there and make it look like a possible accident if he wanted to. So who knows?
Francis Ngannou didn't even flinch. That was a problem for Tyson Fury. After Tyson Fury threw that elbow, he knew he was in trouble. He threw that elbow and Francis Ngannou didn't even flinch.
But could that have been Tyson Fury basically trying to do a dirty tactic because he knew he was in deep shit? It certainly could have been.
Because that's something that Francis Ngannou is used to. That's a walk in the park. That's breakfast on a Monday morning, taking an elbow. But the fact that Tyson Fury had to fall back on using his dirty tactics just lets you know to the level of character of individual that you're dealing with Tyson Fury. But boxing is a dirty sport. It's a dirty, corrupt sport. And everybody knows it. And so I'm going to go ahead and play a clip of Chael Sonnen, who doesn't even like Francis Ngannou, and he's going to talk about their history. This is somebody who has
and also a guy that doesn't know anything about boxing. These guys are trying to prove their case by talking to people that don't know anything about boxing.
Biased against Francis Ngannou and has a relationship with Tyson Fury. So this is somebody that has absolutely no reason to lie. I'm going to go ahead and play the clip, and then, of course, I'll come back and chime in.
I have had 2 interactions with Francis Ngannou, neither pleasant. One of them that involved security. So those things are difficult to get around. So I will just disclose a biasness to you. With that said, a man's commitment and body of work deserves to be recognized, and it deserves to be recognized accurately. That is disgusting what they just did to him. And anybody would have been wise to predict that was going to happen to him.
Well, listen, when you're in the boxing game, when it comes down to it, that phrase, "it's going to go to the champion," takes a whole different meaning. In the UFC, a lot of the times the decisions are a little bit more fair, but in boxing, it is not going to happen. All right? So it is what it is. So whoever is usually worth more money, they're usually going to get that decision. But once again, was this a complete robbery of a decision? No, it wasn't. Once again, a lot of people don't know what a robbery actually is. Once again, if you want to take a look at a robbery, look at Timothy Bradley versus Manny Pacquiao. Take a look overall at Erislandy Lara versus Paul Williams. Take a look at Wilder versus Tyson Fury 1. Those are robberies.
He was humbled. That was clear. But I'm not positive that he has a full recollection of what was going on. And I say that, for one, maybe to cover for Tyson, but 2, to also tell any of you that didn't see the fight a lot about what happened in the fight. Francis knocked the hell out of him. I mean, this is a heartbreaking thing for me.
Francis Ngannou knocked him down in the 3rd round, and there were certain rounds where he was getting the best of Tyson Fury. In the first 2 rounds, I gave it to Tyson Fury. In the 3rd round, I thought Fury was winning it, but he got a little bit too repetitive because he thought Ngannou was starting to tire out, and he got hit with a great left hook counter over the top because he was not keeping his right hand up and he was not getting out of range, and he was staying a little bit too close inside the range against a shorter reach fighter and the fighter that was planning to fight on the inside. He got knocked down, and then he won rounds 4, 5, and 6 relatively clearly. And then round 7, I gave to Ngannou. Could have went to Fury, but I gave it to Ngannou. Round 8 was going to Fury. He was fighting a very intelligent round, and then he he pretty much blew it for the rest of the round. I really don't know what the hell he was doing. But when it came down to it, then in round 9, he clearly won. In round 10, some may give it to Fury, I gave it to Ngannou. What that leads to is a 95-94 scorecard.
And
of course, in favor of Fury.
Not because of whatever weirdness I got going with Francis. It's a heartbreaking thing for me because my entire life I have respected boxing. And to find out that boxing is fake, I don't mean that the decision was corrupted. You cannot be a real sport. You cannot, by any means, be a real sport. This is the second time I've seen the best in the world in boxing, the absolute best in their prime in boxing, get beaten up by a guy with zero experience. That was anything but the best. Francis.
I really don't know overall which other fight that he would be referring to. Uh, I'm not really sure which fight he's talking about there. But when it comes down to it, Tyson Fury, do I believe that it was probably the best performance from him? No, I don't. I think that he was probably a bit off. Not only the 11 months, which I've never been a big fan to use that excuse, but you can probably say that that was about 5 to 10% of it. And then I think the other part was just that Fury that I don't think he trained as hard in terms of conditioning wise for Francis Ngannou. And why would you? He's an MMA fighter. Why train as hard overall for him, especially when you're going to have a fight against one of the top 5 pound for pound fighters in the world against Alexander Usyk a month and a half later?
And you know what he did so well from a physical standpoint? He didn't buy on flinches. Francis commanded that ring like the champion. Francis walked.
I'll certainly say this once again. I give Francis Ngannou a lot of credit. He was very good inside the clinch. He was good at parrying Tyson Fury's jab. That really is what fucked Tyson Fury up so bad in that fight. As soon as Francis was parrying his jab with his lead hand, and he was actually defensively prepared for that, that's when Tyson Fury was a little bit freaked out, because Tyson had never met a fighter like that before. Even against Klitschko and even against Wilder when they tried it, they were a little bit freaked out when Fury fought them. But Francis, he had no fear.
Down.
And so, of course, I mostly agree with Chael Sonnen on this one. Mostly agree. I disagree that boxing is not a real sport. I disagree that because Tyson Fury looked like this, that boxing is not a real sport. Like I said, Tyson Fury is overrated. He's been overhyped. The great white hype. And he's benefited by using his extreme weight and height advantage to his advantage.
Well, his weight and his stature, once again, is a part of it. But if you're just talking about Tyson Fury as a great big white hype, then no, I can't agree. Tyson is a legitimate fighter, and that's why he's beaten a lot of the top contenders, and that's why he's still undefeated today. And you can say all this shit all you want to about, oh, Tyson Fury has that mega weight advantage, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. Even when Fury was 260 pounds in the first fight against Deontay Wilder, he still pretty much embarrassed him when it came down to it. Even when he was a little bit lighter against Vladimir Klitschko, he embarrassed and completely outboxed Vladimir Klitschko about 9 rounds to 3 when it came down to it. So once again, Fury has shown even against fighters of similar physical dimensions that he can handle them. Now, the two fighters that did not show that was Deontay Wilder and Vladimir Klitschko.
Talking about a heavyweight champion that gets dropped damn near every fight. That's not a great champion. That's
right. So then what that means is that Juan Manuel Marquez all of a sudden is not a great fighter. What that means is that Tommy Hearns cannot be remembered as a great fighter. What that means is that a certain amount of other fighters throughout history, even Manny Pacquiao, because he's gotten dropped several times in his career, is not a great fighter. Now, I understand what he's saying, but when we talk about, Tyson Fury, at the end of the day, yes, he's gotten dropped, but Tyson Fury always comes back to win at the end of the day, and that is the most important situation. And in some of his bigger fights, he never has gotten knocked down. Like, he didn't get knocked down once in the second Wilder fight. He didn't get knocked down once in the Klitschko fight. He didn't get knocked down once in the Dillian White fight. But he did get knocked down a couple of times in the first Wilder fight, and also, twice in the third fight. But other than that, Tyson is really not getting knocked down that much. He got knocked down against Steve Cunningham. He got knocked down, I believe, overall against Francis, of course, Ngannou. And then I think he got knocked down by one other opponent, but I can't remember his name.
Not a great champion. I don't care what you say. I don't care how many times you get up. Getting dropped in every fight, that's not a good look.
Right, but he didn't get dropped in every single fight. So, once again, this guy has no idea what the hell he's talking about. He's just a very sore pro-blackety black. Once again, that has to strike while the iron is hot.
That speaks to the weakness of your chin, and that speaks to the level of competition within the heavyweight division. But it doesn't represent the entire sport of boxing. But it is what it is. This is what the sport of boxing looks like, and what it's always looked like historically. We've always had situations like this where the fix was in, one way or another. But go ahead and chime in below and let me know if y'all watched the fight and who y'all thought won. And also go ahead and make sure you hit that like button for me on the way out if you haven't done so already. And as usual, peace and chaos.
But anyways, that's pretty much overall about it. Once again, this dude is just another pro-black cult member who's a very big victim. That's all he is. So it is what it is. But I thought that I would kind of chime into this because there's going to be a lot of these pro-black victimization cults that speak out about Tyson Fury and say, see, we told you all sort of shit. And if Fury is able to come back against Usyk, and if he's able to dominate Usyk or beat Usyk, they're pretty much going to be shut up once again. But, you know, they're going to be talking for the next several months up until the Usyk fight. And this is actually going to be very good for Tyson Fury, believe it or not. It's going to be very good for him because this is going to force him to pretty much pull out the best performance of his career against that of Alexander Usyk. So believe it or not, this was a blessing in disguise because even the embarrassment that was the Francis Ngannou fight, trust me, it's even more of an embarrassment if you lose to Alexander Usyk when you're thought of as the greatest heavyweight of your generation and you lose to a guy that does not necessarily have A-plus level power for that weight division, and he's going to be 60 pounds less than you, potentially. So once again, we'll see where Tyson Fury goes. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully the Usyk versus Fury fight happens next. I believe that it's going to, but it's going to be very interesting. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.